Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, including the stuff from Vivid Voltage, make sure you go ahead and check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code Omnipoke. For today's video, we're going to be doing some investigating here. It's week 11 for the OPOP League, and I need to pretty much discover a new format and figure out not one, not two, but three of the best decks of this format. So I'm going to be going over what I think are the best and most interesting cards, what sort of engine I'm going to look towards playing, and how I'm going to try and juggle all that together to make enough archetypes that I can deal with what I'm anticipating to be the most popular threats, as well as creating my own inherently best decks possible. My initial reaction is that I'm going to look towards the best basic attacking Pokemon, as well as the best Stage 1 attacking Pokemon. I'm still always fearful of Stage 2s. Rare Candy still is one of those things where you either hit it on turn 2 and things start going great, or they don't. And when there's so many potential good basics in the standard format and potential good Stage 1s that can have the reach on Stage 2s, the bulk of the Stage 2 won't really get you through that stage. If you start falling behind, you'll just go further and further and further behind as a Stage 2 deck. So I'm mostly going to be looking towards powerful basics, and if there are powerful enough Stage 1s, I'll look towards using those as well. I think sniping is going to be a big thing to look for as well, because we can only cheat prizes if we're taking multiple knockouts at once. So looking for spreading attacks or spreading abilities will be definitely something I'll be looking for, because those can be pretty cool. Outside of that, obviously it's one prize week, so we can't use the Dene, Crobat, Eldegoss, any of those things. So looking towards Gormandize engines potentially, looking towards Stellarwish engines, Cinccino's, Pidgeottos, those sorts of things are definitely going to become more important. Also in the back of my mind, I'm thinking when there aren't all those good abilities that we can use, maybe Green's exploration builds become more important, because if you can't use half the good abilities anyways, all of your downside goes away. So then you're just naturally playing the best supporter engine in the game, because all the other draw support is not as good. So those are the things that are rooting around my head right now, but I haven't actually sat down and thought, what are the best, most efficient attackers? What are the best break points of damage that I need to be hitting? What are the best weaknesses to be hitting for and covering against? And what's the best way to actually build these decks as well? So you've probably seen these sorts of videos for things like the Dragon Shield tournaments that I've been part of, so hopefully you'll enjoy this. I'm doing it all on the fly, so we'll sort of see how it goes and where we get to and what harebrained schemes I come up with. So the first thing that jumps out at me is Snorlax. 130 hit points is decent. Gormandize is a fantastic ability. Body Slam is actually an option, because you can play Guzhala Twin Energy in the deck, and you can actually build towards this. And you get the upside of Paralysis, which is hilarious. I think in general this card is going to be very good. Obviously, when we're playing only one prizes, we can quite easily have a good amount of Scoop Up Nets in the decks. Provides great healing, so I want to make sure that I'm one-shotting other people, and so they can't heal against me. Or I want to make sure that if I'm not one-shotting, I'm also not getting one-shot back. So that's always something to bear in mind. Snorlax probably gets he's not good enough to attack with, probably, unless you're using Gormandize in between turns where you're bossing things up. But that sounds really weird. And he's not tanky enough either. But good enough engine, possibly. I still feel like passive draw is a big no-no for me, especially if I'm evolving. I would always prefer to be Stellar Wishing if I'm looking to play an evolution-based deck, because you need to get those basics down turn 1, and Gormandizing with just this active because you've whiffed your early quick balls makes me super sad. So he feels slow, and you can't do the same thing that you can with the multiple prize decks in standard format, where him just getting knocked out just doesn't mean anything towards the game and the actual outcome and the amount of knockouts, whereas in one prize format it absolutely does. So yeah, Lugia hits ridiculous damage, but I think it's still hard to achieve, so we'll just ignore him for now. We do have Trumbeak as a potential energy accelerator. There's the potential Raikou Trumbeak deck. 120 to the active and the bench sounds extremely terrifying. It sounds high roll though, so yeah. Kangaskhan is a nice revenge attacker that any twin energy deck can try and weave in, which is pretty cool. I think there are some good twin energy / triple acceleration energy decks, so having that as an option seems very reasonable. Bunnelby, Mad Partying sounds very reasonable as well. Swanna doing potentially 140 for free, with Birdkeeper already being a very good supporter in this format because I want to be using Stellar Wish a bunch. So potentially Swanna as a 1 prize option. Yeah, 140 is not a bad number. You could play Leon in this deck as well to push to 170 if you wanted to, and then you'd have to pay the triple acceleration. So maybe a weird combination of Bird Keepers and Leons going in this deck. The upside of playing Bird Keeper as well is you can use Rowlet to do Wind Pebbles for 60 damage prods, which could be really good intimidation in the early turns where you just like randomly target a Snom or randomly target like a Pidgey or something like that they're trying to evolve up into. So I like the sound of Sky Circus stuff. That sounds cool just like off the bat because I'm allowed to miss energy drops. I'm allowed to play triple acceleration, which then opens up things like Dugong even as an attacking threat. So yeah, I'm already interested in a Sky Circus kind of thing because I can foresee how that would map out. Mad Party is just like all built in one. You know exactly what you're going for when you're trying to build Mad Party. I think I definitely have to try and play Dust Skull because you don't have the same amount of discard that you would have without Dead Age Change. You'd have to play like Judge Whistles and all this other stuff as well to try and actually draw cards without the help of those 2-prize Pokemon. And I'm also pretty terrified of not only spread attacks, which you can play Mew for, but the likes of Flapple, the likes of Zigzagoon, Scoop Up Net, the likes of Obstagoon being in there as well. So I think Mad Party would be fast and pretty efficient at what it's doing, but I am scared that it'll have a weak underbelly, I think. Greedent doing hit and run strats. So hit and run strats I think are quite good because I don't foresee us having the same amount of space in decks as we do in standard. Standard is great for making space in decks because you play like 2 or 3 prize Pokemon and like that's your Pokemon line and then you just play consistency Pokemon. Whereas here you need to play like a 4/4 line of your random stage 1. So you just naturally and like you need to have 4/4 Cincino or something like along those lines if you want to be consistent in this format. So you're naturally eating into your spaces to play Gust. I imagine I won't be playing a high Boss's Orders count in any deck. I think at most I'll play like 2 and 2 Sinlin. At like absolute most. There is Ninetales in the format for Gusting for Fire decks. But in general, I feel like Lily's Pokédoll is strong in this format. So Smack and Run naturally feels quite strong to me. 100, like recyclable, is okay. Do we still have Beheeyem? Beheeyem would definitely be stronger than Greedent, though, I feel. It'd be harder to chain. But I still feel I would look to play Beheeyem over Greedent. But that's interesting. And another hit and run would be the prankish Clefable deck that I profiled for some funsies. And that sounds really scary as well. I'll have to take note of how many decks are playing Energy Acceleration. Because if there aren't very good Welder decks, and if there aren't very good, like, I'm already thinking Frostmoth would be a good acceleration deck. If there's a lot of decks that will be multiple attachments, the Prankish deck could be disgusting, especially because you're naturally playing 4 Pokédolls. And the 60 damage is not great, but it's probably better in this format. Let me think about that, actually. Because they can play Scoop Up Nets, maybe it's not. Maybe they just out-heal that damage anyway. Maybe that's a similar thing for Greedent as well. Yeah, possibly Hit and Run I'm overhyping in my head right now. Because the amount of damage you're undoing by dolls, they're undoing by Scoop Up Nets. So it's kind of just like who draws what, and then you can be hand disrupted. Okay, so maybe that's not a huge deal. Maybe I don't have to be too scared of Hit and Run. This Snorlax I think is crazy. Just having 150 base hit points that you can toughness cape or buff padding, whatever you want. And having collapse as an option that you can... Like, you can turn your first energy attachment for whatever deck you're playing into then, like, Guzhala Twin Energy, and you can collapse for 120. 120 seems like a good number for me. Falling asleep doesn't sound like a big problem, because I think you'd be playing... because Jirachi engines are so good, I imagine you'll be playing, like, Switches, probably Scoop Up Nets, and Bird Keepers as well, the way I'm envisioning things. So maybe just an aggro Lax is going to be a good deck. I think you'd probably want... either 4 Twin Energy, or you'd want to play Welder in here, and then you just use like Ninetales to just be like, give me that one, hit it for 120, give me that one, hit it for 120. I think it's a little bit fragile to stage 2s, possibly, if you can't get out the gates early. But it would have to be a stage 2 that can hit you for 150. Or like Donphan sounds scary, because Donphan has 150 hit points, and they hit you for weakness. Okay, so a couple things there, but aggro Lax in general sounds good. Okay, that sounds interesting. There's other Snorlax, but I think they're all quite bad. Greedy Tail Greedent makes me think of Whimsicott, which has insane damage output, but maybe slow. Kind of weak to hand disruption still. I don't know how many Marnies people will be playing. I'm thinking I'll play a lot of Bird Keepers because I want to be Stellar Wishing a bunch in between turns. But maybe Marnies are good just to keep Whimsicott in check. But even then, like, if they just put their own Cincenos or Greedents in, their damage output scales so quickly because 40 is such a good multiplier. Maybe Whimsicott's just like solid in this format. It's a good indicator that it's surviving in current standard, but yeah. So Cincino could be considered in a bunch of things. Primate Wisdom could be considered in a bunch of things. I'm starting with the colorless stuff if you haven't noticed already, obviously, because I want to look at just like general cards that anyone could be putting in their decks that I need to be aware of. So these all seem pretty poor. Don't think Ordino's ever doing enough for us. Cataday. Are we scared of Cataday? Not too much, right? I don't think Cataday is that good. I think the Birdkeeper thing sounds better, the Sky Circus stuff. Pidgeotto definitely worth thinking about. Aerodactyl, 180, really good damage output. We do have a good amount of synergy for fossil-type Pokemon with the Stadium. And you could play just like 4 Aerodactyl, 4 Jirachi, and then you're guaranteed to wish and have have a good early game most of the time. That's interesting. That feels interesting to me. You just play Quad Aerodactyl, and then you play like a couple other fossils, and maybe like was it Armaldo as your late game Twin Energy attacker? I'm getting wild now. But 180 on a stage 1 sounds good. It's a little bit squishy though. It may just be like up traded on by 1 prizes too easily. That's my biggest fear for something like that, and whiffing energy attachments. Right, let's look at some dragon stuff. Hopefully this is quick. We know Drampa. Drampa probably isn't that good. You could try and have an aggro ends resolve Drampa deck, but that sounds terrible to me. This has good damage output, but why am I looking at stage 2? Let's be honest with ourselves. We don't have a way to remove this ability, and the attack cost sucks. So spread is definitely an interesting thing to think about. 1 energy, 20 spread around the board. You could build something around that. Executor has good hit points. I think its damage output is just a little bit low, so I'm not too happy about that. So not much in the dragon category. That's fine. That's fine. Dragon also hits nothing for weakness. So there is the Doll Swap Clefable potential deck. Could that be the best stalling deck? I don't know. My fear about stalling decks, I'm sure you can try and make a handlock with Excadrill just work, because you can just handlock people and win slowly. You know what? That's probably really good. You get so much time against these decks as well. That's the thing. You get given so much time. Yeah, Excadrill Control could be a problem. That seems like a really good deck. What's good against things like Excadrill Control? I'll have to think about that. I'll really have to have a think about that. Want to make sure you have a healthy amount of energy cards and maybe some spread elements. I don't know. I got to think. Excadrill Control may not be that good because you'd have to play Snorlax Engine rather than Intrepid Sword, but I think that's still fine. Okay, maybe their early game's still patchy. I don't know. We'll see. Fairy stuff that seems strong. Not a lot that I'm seeing. Not a lot. I don't feel like any rubbish Blizzard stuff is going to be good enough. I think just things to note is the Clefairy, which then got me onto a tangent of Excadrill Control. Yeah, Drill Control sounds nutty, not going to lie. You just have so much time. And plus you're tankier as Excadrill now as well. It's like they only really have like 1 attacker that can get through you. Let's look at Metal. I feel Metal is pretty good. Definitely there's some good there's some good basics out there. Amazing Rare, obviously a good card for a bunch of matchups. I think this McGinn is okay. Gives you an early game like panic button option if you just happen to start with the card, and wind up cannon for 2 attachments doesn't sound that bad. It's probably finishing things off that you've previously hit, or if it's on like a gust knockout on something, but that certainly seems okay. As a 1 attachment, Skarmory is not the worst. 1 for 50, and I imagine you'd be playing a good amount of tools, probably just playing toughness capes. So yeah, that seems okay. I really think Galarian Berserker is solid. Meowth has synergy with your metal sources, and I think that's just good. So yeah, that seems fine. Duraludon, he's got to be the boy, right? I think Duraludon is one of the best attackers in the format. 130 base that then becomes 180. It accelerates to itself, so even if you're not drawing much, like just imagine like an early like turn 1 Viridian play, and you're already like really happy with that play, and you can sorcerer onto this guy. You've got Berserker to buff this damage output as well. Your type covering, I think, is decent. You're definitely going to be hitting for weakness on Snoms in those early turns, which is super scary for them. If you super high roll your early game, a Sharpener with double Berserker could kill a Jirachi on turn 1 going on turn 2, I should say. Yeah, because you can't evolve up straight away. But that's still like good early pressure whilst spreading to not only like sometimes you spread to yourself and just start power beam slamming, or you spread around your board, which is okay. So yeah, I think Duraludon Berserker just sounds really good. I played that in one of the Dragon Shield tournaments where you're only allowed 2 copies of everything. So I was only allowed 2 copies of Sorcerer, and that deck still got me quite far. But I won the tournament with it. So so it sounds good that I get to play 4 Sorcerers with that sort of just dumb beatdown aggro Duraludon deck. So yeah, that's cool. Other cards. So Steelix sounds clunky as hell when you don't have Oricorio GX to fall back on. But you do have Nessa for like looping your damage output, and you really don't need much damage, but I'm kind of skeptical that you're going to get enough early game draw. I think your early game is the thing that I'm most concerned about for a deck like this, but high hit points and potential 1-hit KOs, that ticks a lot of boxes, so maybe it's fine. I don't think you'll be able to get away with playing Guz Haller as your supporter, though, so you're going to have to play a lot of Cinccino's to try and just draw your energies. But maybe that's okay. Sounds like it would have a hard early game, because you're looking to get multiple stage 1s up, and also a bunch of extra random Pokemon frittering around in your hand. So that sounds like a really big like Dreamer deck. You have ridiculous hit points, ridiculous damage potential, and then it's just like you need to draw so much to actually get it going. So that's my fear, I would say. Interesting. Trash Cyclone Garb with Cinccino and Hapu's. Does the multiplier get fast enough to be good throughout the game? Probably not. I think Whimsicott would be the better. If I'm trying to make some sort of tool deck work, I would just play Whims, probably. What else is good? Ariados is a reasonable gusting option. Probably not that good compared to just playing bosses. Hydreigon with like random Darkrai sounds like way too many steps. Spiritomb Hooper for early aggro, but I actually think 90 is a pretty bad number, and I'm already very scared of spread things to play Spiritomb, and I still think Tool Scrapper's a pretty good card in this format, so I probably won't be playing anything like that. Wheezing sounds pretty decent, because a lot of people will be playing Jirachi engines, a lot of people will have just way worse draw in general. So playing like a really slow Wheezing Hammers with like Toxicroak could be pretty gross to deal with. That's something to bear in mind. That's pretty scary, actually. I think that the way that you beat Control as well. Is Wheezing how you beat Control? Wow, that's the anti-control deck. Incredible scenes. We've done it. We've won. Obstagoon. So I feel like he's maybe even just like a Hooper Spiritomb that plays Obstagoon in the deck just to like have extra damage mod could be okay. Maybe that's fine, because I really value the damage that an Obstagoon can be giving you the whole time. It sounds really, really good. This Hooper's just a good tech card that anyone could be playing, because I feel like there's going to be Cinccino plus Jirachi engines all over the place. Muck is interesting. You can play Toxicroak Muck for the aggro mill as well. Absol could be okay if you're thinking people are going to use Amazing Rare Jirachi, but I think more people will Stellar Wish. So from here, I'm most interested in... Really, Glorian Wheezing is interesting, which I thought I'd never say aloud. For fighting stuff, we're kind of... I mean, this Donphan seems really, really good, but I am very... I mean, this can be like a 200-something hit point Pokemon, because you can buff padding and have stone fighting energy now to make this guy humongous, and then you just start swinging with the EQs. Maybe that's just like good. That sounds good. It sounds low maintenance as well. It's like 1 energy on a stage 1. That's all you need. Ugh, that sounds pretty dirty. I like the sound of it. I like the sound of it. We do have Hitmons, not those ones, but I think we have the good ones as well, right? There's Colossal as an accelerator, but I think multiple typing stage 2 acceleration sounds like a really big trap, so you don't want to fall into that trap. There's the Armaldo that I was talking about. Probably good enough to get through. Okay, so there's attacking drill as well as control drill. Maybe I'm bringing double drill decks. So is this better or worse than Donphan? I feel like it's probably better than Donphan because I'm more scared of the spread stuff. I'm so petrified of spread nonsense or random tool scrapper nonsense making me sad. Okay, random thoughts. But yeah, control drill certainly sounds like a great pick. I mean, it sounds really good to just play that because you can handlock basically everything in this format because there's no, like they're only taking a prize at a time if you play the board correctly. Stack Attacker gets absolutely humongous as well. Like, imagine stone fighting on this guy, or like multiple stone fightings on the guy, and buff padding, or Cape of Toughness, and Wall of Stone is working. You can play B as well. Like, you can just play quad Stack Attacker. Gross. Yeah, the Hitmons are interesting. They can do some snipe shenanigans. And dolls are still pretty strong. Yeah, so some interesting stuff for fighting. Definitely some good stage 1s in the fighting category as well. They just seem to have... I mean, their damage output's not that high. Like, 120 is not great. But the good old... The stone fighting just makes these guys so tanky to deal with. So awkward. Alright, so Dust Noir is actually an interesting card because if you're expecting things like Mad Party to be really good, if you want to... like, Whimsicott as well will definitely be playing 4 copies of Horror. And Horror, like, this guy turns all those 4 horrors into colorless energies, so they can't attack with them. So you like, if you're expecting Mad Party, Whimsicott, and like another deck, you can just tech in a 1/1/1 Dust Noir and just like body them, right? They need to wait around till they find a basic energy card and a boss in the same hand, whilst you're just like pounding them. Maybe Mad Party. Oh no. Okay, so Mad Party can't play this because it works for both. So you need to find a basic energy attacking deck that can fit in a 1/1/1 Dust Noir. That could be clutch. That could be super clutch. Is that the answer? Is this the answer? Wow. Okay. Whimsicott sounds good though. I'd probably just play it with Cincino or with Pidgeotto. Probably over Greedent, I think. I think I just want general draw because you don't have the Quick Ball to Dene to fall back on or whatever. But that sounds good. That sounds pretty good. We've talked about the Mad Party stuff. Obviously, it has a good draw engine to fall back on. Cursor, I still feel 60 is just nothing, right? So that's just poor. Dragon Ball's a stage 2, but it does have coin flips on its side and potential spread, which I keep mentioning over and over and again that I'm petrified of. But it seems like too much work. Its attack cost is awkward as well. Maybe with horrors it does enough damage. Like, I'm worried that this 120 is just not... Like, you set this guy up, and what if you just flip tails the first time? And then it's like, you're kind of just like shrugging, being like, ugh. Like, I guess I'm just sacrificing prize after prize until I build up my next one and then hope that's a heads. So that's kind of gross. We do have some Wheezing stuff. There's Wheezing spread potentially as well. 4 counts on. I was just trying to think in my head whether I could build like a pure Dust Noir that just plays one of the Disruption Dust Noirs and just like the rest is like this random one. With with your boy Wonder Energy. Oh no, you can't. Not Wonder. I'm not even talking Horror Energy. I was thinking like, yeah, you could get there with Horror Energy, but if you're playing the other Dust Noir, you can't do that either. So you'd have to play pure basic energies. Golurk. No supporter Golurk. That sounds pretty terrible when we don't have any good Pokemon draw. Well, more limited Pokemon draw, I guess I should say. A Baby Blound. That's a really, really good card. What moves energy from itself? The Gallade moves energy off itself, right? Interesting. So again, I'm kind of getting debated by some stage 2s here, but having dual typing sounds reasonable. And then moving energy off to have a Blound turn sounds pretty pog, not gonna lie. That sounds wild. To mop up some prizes all at once. That sounds pretty cool. Tina's a decent option. I feel like there will be a good amount of special energies around. I just don't know if you'll play that, even though you're probably playing a bunch of scoop up nets already. So Beheum being the hit and run probably sounds more reasonable than Greedent or Clefable, I think I want to say. Most of these attackers that I've talked about are one energy attachment attackers, which the Clefable deck is still quite bad against. So Aegislash is rinse and repeat damage, and you're never going to run out of attackers. Oh, interesting. So this could be the deck that just plays basic energies, or it can play special energies, and you can turn them into basic colorless energies with Dust Noir. So maybe Aegislash Dust Noir is the counter deck to this format. It's extremely... I mean, it sounds extremely slow, but the Dusk Skulls have the synergy for the discards of your excess trainer cards. We can just play a ton of Bull Search. We can play Dust Stones, Judge Whistles. Maybe I am playing Stage 2s just to troll people. Wild. Okay. I'm super into the Dust Noir. I mean, I'm going to be so sad if people aren't playing what I'm expecting, which is like Whimsicott with Horrors and Mad Party. Okay. We got Detention Gas Wheeze. He sounds good. Mewtwo and Mew, both super important cards. I think I'll put Mew in everything just to like be safe. Just like blanket, be safe to spread, because I feel like the Dugongs and the Decidueyes and those sorts of spreaders sound super scary otherwise. That's going to make me sad. So yeah. Nidoqueen sounds slow. Okay. And the only reason I'm mentioning Dust Noir is because we have the Dust Skull, right? I wouldn't even care about this Dust Noir if I couldn't play the Dusclops. You know, I wouldn't do it if I had to play rare candies in my deck. And if I play the Aegislash, you still don't have to play rare candies because you play the Dust Stone instead. So yeah. We're on to the lightning stuff. Okay. Big Snipe, but I don't know how you power up the Zapdos. The Raiku's the most interesting one. If there are Dreamers out there, this is probably one of the most powerful cards in the format, to be honest. It's not very tanky, but 120 is like vomit disgusting. Like, that's so powerful. I feel like most times you come up against a deck like that, though, they probably won't set up more than like 2 Raikus. So if you just beat 2 Raikus, even if they've gone up like 4 prizes, then you just like yawn and sweep them. So it's like you really got to be a dreamer to try and make that happen, I think. Lightning stuff in general I'm like kind of thinking of just because speed lightning gives you extra draw in like those early turns, and I'm quite paranoid of early turns just being like clanky. But Raikou probably wouldn't be able to play special energies unless you played it with Porygon Z. Maybe Porygon Z Raikou is the play, because you can play aromatics and you can play what's it called, shield or coating metal energies. You can attach those to Raikou, obviously, and you can just play speed just to have those early game attachments. So maybe Porygon Z Raikou. Maybe I am playing Stage 2s. All I've mentioned is Stage 2s. You can see the dreamer trying to come out here with the ideas, but then I'm just going to wind it back and play like an aggro basic deck. We'll see how it goes. Luxray interesting because it can be top entry cheated with Orangaroos, and you could raid for 160 for 1. Again, you get to play Speed Lightnings, which is pretty pog. Is this more spread? Yeah, that's more spread, and it's a lightning type spreader, which is cool. So you can use Speed Lightning, I should add. I'm not really into the whole things that blow themselves up, because the prize actually matters now all the time. What else are we looking at? I feel Vikavolt's probably way too much work. Zapdos, similar to what I was saying with Hooper, I don't think its damage output's enough. But early, like, just put it in a lightning deck, and that's your early tempo, like right there. Like, boom, early tempo achieved. So that's cool. Especially because you have this guy, so you can make sure you're still attaching to other things as you go. So maybe something like, an aggro Zapdos that plays double Orangaroo and, like, top entry Luxray. So your early game is early Grinch Zapdos prizes, whilst you're doing that, you're setting top entries to the top, and then you're just raiding here and there. This card is nutty as well. This card is pretty nutty. I like the idea of playing Zapdos with Speed Lightnings as well. Intriguing. Very intriguing. I like the tempo of that. Alright, water stuff. Immediately you know that I'm looking at Frostmoth targets probably. This guy pretty big. This guy is a big boy. He can hit 170. And this scales as well, so you can put more on. 200 hit points that can become 250 hit points. With the buff stuff. Sounds like you're setting up a lot of work. It's going to be hard to get a whale and a moth and bucket without being detonated beforehand, or at least taking... Like, Warlord could be hit before he gets to attack. And if they gust him up... I mean, it's actually really hard for me to picture people gusting you up on turn 2, unless it's these aggro one prize decks, in which case you're really sad because you are weak to lightning. But Whale sounds like a good deal, especially because Nessa means you could like recycle Warlord quite easily. Is there a better stage one? Oh, sorry, is there a better basic option than Warlord? So Suicune's okay. This is pretty troll if everyone's trying to evolve on you. And there won't be much Gust in the format, I don't think. So Ice Cube's pretty okay. 70 is not a great number. I mean, it's good in the early turns, but it falls off like by turn 3. But Ice Face is solid. Obviously, Frostmoth is like what you're trying to build around. More energy disruption. Inteleon's okay. His damage output's kind of meh. But the engine behind him is cool. Just more engine cards. Fion is good for... I think I should be playing Fion in most of my decks, to be honest. Just because if people just like Stellar Wish for one quick ball and just like quick ball their one basic, and then you're the player going second, and you can just like Fion Grinch the thing they're trying to evolve, you just like... You gain so much tempo on them. You basically instantly win. Black Hiram. Okay, so this could be the attacker that's better than Warlord, or at least is worth thinking about instead of playing Warlord. So this guy can get to... So the Warlord can get to 250. This guy could get to 180 and can hit 200. That's pretty comparable. What stadium would you play? Would you just play Training Court, I guess? Huh, interesting. So probably Black Hiram's the best attacker that I can think of. It's either Black Hiram or it's the Big Whale, I think. The Big Daddy. So Dugong I'm scared of because 60-60 sounds broken. Grenade, oh, 50-50 sounds broken with the 50-50 up here. Oh, Greninja, you're so boring. I'm so sad that every Greninja card they've made is boring as hell. Articuno's pretty cool. I know I said with Ice Cube that 70 is not great, but Articuno's fulfilling that role of being that early game. And if you just attach to it turn 1, like go first, attach turn 1, attach turn 2, you don't need to have found your Frostmoth. So it lets you play when you haven't drawn anything good and you still do stuff, which is okay. Interesting. So it's probably either Warlord Frostmoth or Black Hiram Frostmoth. So for fire, Lizard sounds good, but he is a stage 2. His damage output is wild though. Like you bin 1 Leon and you're just like... Like I don't even know if you'd even play 4 Leon in this deck. I think you could play like 3 Leon in this meta's Charizard. To gain more spaces for consistency. Which is pretty cool. So Magmortar I think is probably the best stage 1 threat. Because you can ground burn for just 1 welder, 1 attach, and hit 180 with a Rangaroo synergy of your own top deck, whilst also potentially Grinching top decks from your opponent. Best things to Grinch in this format is probably the likes of Rare Candies, Ordinary Rods, just like random supporters, I guess, Boss's Orders, those sorts of cards. But yeah, this card seems really good. Like, just play Magmortar, Oranguru, Jirachi, that sort of thing. You could play like 1 Blown and Crystals if you want to. You could go super setup based and try and play Ninetales for Gust, but I think that's too much work. Yo, we could play Chandelure. I forgot that we could play Chandelure. And greens engines, you probably get away with playing a greens engine much more in this format because people are way less likely to kill like double Litwick or whatever. So you can like greens turn 1, get quick ball and dust stone or whatever, and then just like have your turn 2 play ready to go. That sounds cool. So Cinderace is pretty bulky, 170, and it sets himself up to hit 190, but I don't know if I'd play this over Charizard. I feel like I'd play Charizard over Cinderace, just because you draw more cards with the Charizard. I know this guy's like all singing, all dancing, but so many things can hit 170 that we've talked about so far that I don't think it's that worth it. Decent revenge attacker for welder decks. There's the dream, the Chandelure. Chandelure can now get Charizard out, by the way, which could give you a better draw engine. Salazzle for draw sounds interesting. Volk is an early game option. Again, like 120, early game pressure. High Heat Blast, early pressure against Jirachi sounds really good, actually. If people just have that dud start and you just High Heat Blast through, like you just weld a High Heat Blast knowing that you can't get bopped the next turn. Maybe just like a Volk Baby Blounds with just like 4 toughness capes. Sounds pretty good pressure. Sounds like good pressure to me. Okay. Ninetales sounds like a big boast for the fire decks as well. You can just be grinching Cinccino's and Jirachis and all that sort of stuff around the board. Roaring Resolve Zard is fairly low maintenance, but I think it's outdone by Cinderace and by the new Charizard, so that's a shame. But yeah, we're coming towards the back end of things here. I'm basically doing this for myself so then I can watch back the video and make notes about the things that I've talked about today. So Beedrill sounds cool. Grass is cool in general because you get to play Turfield, so I'm kind of interested in this. I don't know, I mean, you're probably never getting to 0-card hand size, but this is like the best Dedenne or Crobat that we have in the format. And if you play towards it and actually play Turfields, maybe it's Pog. Shifty sounds like a total meme. Who are you actually disrupting? Of the decks we've talked about, it's only Welder decks that feel very sad about this, and you're already weak to fire, so you could just lose to aggro, Flare Starter, Detonate anyway. So yeah, this sounds terrible. I've thought it through, and people will beat you with their 4 hows. So yeah, Sky Circus in general. So I liked the idea of Swanna. So having Rowlet just makes a lot of sense, because you could get such good early pressure. The Swanna deck could play like 4 captures in the deck as well, so you could capture for Rowlet early. That sounds interesting. I don't know if it makes enough of the Decidueyes good enough. I think there is a good Decidueye. I don't think this Decidueye, the one that we know about at the moment, I don't think is the right one that I'm thinking of. I think there's a better spread one that could be danger. So we have Rillaboom, but I don't know if there's anything good to accelerate onto. I don't think there's enough. Another top entry card that can do 60 times each prize you've taken. So it's a late game beat stick with 160 hit points. That's not too bad, actually. Not too bad. So Flapple, I haven't really thought about anything that could weave in Flapple. Maybe a grass deck can weave in Flapple. We haven't talked about that much spread. There's actually not that much good spread. I think it's like Dugong that I'm kind of scared of. What else is good for spreading? Like, we've actually not mentioned too much. Possibly this Decidueye that I'm thinking of. I'm pretty sure it does 80 and 80. So Apple Drop in. I mean, I don't know if I'll have enough good draw engine to actually be able to Apple Drop a lot. But maybe if Turfield just sticks, maybe if I just go all out and play 4 Turfield and just say, I'll win the Stadium War and I'll be Apple dropping as many turns as possible. But I'm kind of skeptical that I won't have enough uses of it to actually make it worthwhile in the deck. Depends how long a game goes. And I feel like there's enough one-shots that the game doesn't actually go that long. It depends. Like, maybe you come up against a slower deck that's looking to... Maybe this is the way that you can improve against... Excadrill. Probably not, though. You'd have to like keep a bunch of damage waiting around, but they play Scoop Up Net anyway that they can instantly loop, so that doesn't make sense. Okay. I'm still thinking about the control matchup because I'm scared of it. So Tangrowth, you can do a lot against things with with Absol, you can do a lot against basic attacking decks, but even with Galamine, I don't think it's sustainable against multiple prize Pokemon. He could be an interesting spreader. With 6 in hand, you do 30 to each of your opponent's bench. That's pretty dangerous, right? That's pretty dangerous. Like, if you're playing Cinccino's, that's like a board wipe. How do you kill a Mew? You need to go down to one card in hand. What a troll. Swordsbuck is a hit and run. Do I prefer this to any of the ones you talked about before? It draws you cards, which I like. But no. We'll leave Swordsbuck behind. Here's the good Decidueye. Yes, 80 and 80. For a twin as well. So you get to play... Wow, Guz Hala with this is really good, because you can get twin, and you can get Turfield. Orbital vibes, bro. That's 80 and 80 is pretty dangerous as well, I want to say. And you have early Wind Pebbles pressure. So you'd probably be playing Bird Keepers, Jirachis, these guys. Twin Energies, right? So what other Twin Energy attackers would you want? You'd probably play Kangaskhan as a response attacker, so you don't need to chain stage 2s. Maybe Flapples, just to make the most of your tracking shots. Probably a good amount of Dartrix as well as your candies, just so you can chain with Turfield. Huh, interesting. I think this, I mean, it's not super tanky, but it's got, spread is so filth. If you can make spread work in this format, you're just bodying people, I think. And spread will be good against the control stuff. Amoongus for the troll. I don't know if that's going to be good enough. Again, a 1 for 90 spread is dangerous. 1 for a 90 spread. What's the easiest status? The friggin' confused thing. This is free retreat as well. So if you set up double Venomoth, you can... Oh, I've just lost it. If you set up double Venomoth, you can cheer Yellhorn retreat and do the 90 ping to the back, and they're confused. But I've already said that a lot of people are playing Bird Keepers and Switches and Scoop Up Nets. At least in my head. Because Jirachi's busted. But 90 is a really good number because that's hitting Pidgeotto, Cinccino, Jirachi, every basic that's trying to evolve. Please load so I can finish this video. Because we got so far. But yeah, let's get off the carousel. Rock our way down to this. We were really close to the end because we were at Venomoth, right? Yeah. Okay. What else are we looking at? Katana, we don't care about that guy. Yeah, so there's not really any good attackers for Rillaboom to take advantage of. It's like maybe a late game Buzzwole doing good damage, but not too much to think about there. So Summary of Grass is probably Decidueye plus Flapple as the best attacking thing. Probably. Potential for some top entry shenanigans with Twin Energy style decks. For the fire stuff, it was like Blown Volk as a deck, Charizard and Magmortar, knowing that Salazzle and Ninetales are on the table. Okay. For water, it's definitely Frostmoth stuff. I'm not even going to entertain the idea of trying to play Cramorant Barraskewda. I think it sounds terrible. And be aware of Dugong being a card that people will play. For sure. And if we're playing Frostmoth, we're probably playing Werelord, or we're playing Black Kyurem, or we're playing a split. Maybe just like a 2-2 Werelord and like 2 Kyurem is enough when you have Nessa. Maybe. Lightning stuff, I think it's like probably just playing aggro Zap with top entry Luxray as your backup as a deck. Sounds like great tempo, and I'm certain that you'll be able to Grinch a lot of evolving Pokemon and Grinch Jirachi engines so hard, because Jirachi engine, like, it's either Snorlax or Jirachi engine, but Jirachi sounds so much better because it's so proactive. I may submit to playing a troll Dusknoir deck. I'm just throwing it out there because Dusknoir sounds so troll for the Mad Party deck, for Whimsicott that will play horrors, for probably like the Zapdos deck because it will play 4 Speed Lightnings, and you're like, I mean, how many energies would that deck play? Like 9? Like Whimsicott at the moment in standard plays 6 energies. And like maybe because you have less dig potential with the Denates and stuff, they play like 7 energies, but no one's going to play 0 copies of Horror Psychic because they're scared of a Dust Noir because they're coming up against me. Like, that's just dumb, right? So then you put them down to 3 energies the whole game. Even with 2 ordinary rods, they have to play those so carefully. Yeah, I want to try and make a Dust Noir deck work. You get stone fighting as well from any fighting player. Any twin energy style attacker. Yeah, that's really good. So Mad Party is a deck. What else is there? Be aware of the Blown, I guess. Be aware of the Blown. Don't know how you power up though. Fighting has a good amount of options. It's like there's the drill decks. Control sounds insane. Regular attacking drill, Dom Fan, and maybe Hitmons just because of the power of Lily's Pokédoll are all reasonable. And be aware that Stacko Taco becomes fat in this format. Like, just imagine just getting bodied by like someone hitting the B turn 1 and just getting some stone fightings out there. Like, how sad does that feel? For Dark, I'm not too impressed. It's like Wheezing stopping everything fun that I'm trying, and Obstagoon sound good, and maybe Hooper Spiritomb. Maybe Hoopertomb is better than Zapdos Luxray. I have to think. I have to piece together how aggressive spread things are and how scared I am of Tool Scrapper. For Metal, it feels like you definitely just played Duraludon with Metal Sources and Berserkers. Because even on turns where you're doing nothing, like if you've set up 2 Berserkers, you're able to hit 70 with Duraludon, right? So even if they just like bodied you and you've not been able to find sources to find your next guy, you can just be like, okay, cool, I'll just boss up a Jirachi for this turn, or boss up something you're trying to evolve over here, hit it for 70, take my prize, set up my next Duraludon. So then you're setting up multiple threats the whole game. And like, it's so low maintenance because the Berserker finds itself. So yeah, Ferio is fully unimpressed, right? It was just the Clefable deck. Dragon I was unimpressed with, and then Colorless there was the Sky Circus stuff as attacking stuff. I think those are the things that I'm most interested in. There's the option for Greedent, but man, it doesn't sound that good. So I think that's my metagame rundown. Let me know what you guys think about this format. Have you tried any one prize stuff? Oh, Porygon Z as well I need to bear in mind if I want to play Amazing Rares. Is there ever going to be an Amazing Rare Toolbox? Oh, and Aerodactyl. Amazing Rare Toolbox, just because Raikou's nutty. Could it happen? Theoretically. It could theoretically happen that Raikou is a good enough build around. It depends how much people respect sniping and how many people play Mew. Because I'm out here thinking I don't want to play boss when I can just snipe something instead. You know? But we'll see. That's my one prize ramble. I didn't want to give away what actual decks I'm playing. This is literally like my second look at this, and the first time I looked was like 2 weeks ago when we announced that we were doing the one prize format, and I kind of just went like shrugged and just thought like, yeah, the things that I knew previously, like the Whimsicott, the Mad Party, those things were like in my head because I just thought about them as one prize decks and stuff like that. And now that I've had a deeper dive, there's definitely some things I need to look at. I need to look at how I'm beating Control with any deck that I'm playing, and reasons why I shouldn't be playing Control, because maybe it is just not as good without Intrepid Sword. Like, Gormandize is very, very different to Intrepid, but you get given so much more time in this format, I feel. And you should be able to just handlock people, and you should be able to run certain decks out just with hammers alone, so... and dolls and stuff. Maybe it's just too good. We'll see. That's my rundown. Let me know if I missed anything. Do you think there's any good attackers? What would you be building if you were playing pure one prize? What do you think the best engine would be? You going Gormandize? You going Jirachi? You going Greens and just hoping that the Greens Exploration is a good enough supporter to see you through without the help of any of that other stuff? I'll hear it all down below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And yeah, week 11 of the OPOP League is going to be pretty spicy, so make sure you stay tuned. I'm against Eric from Rare Candy, if I didn't mention that earlier. And yeah, tons of other good content creators trying to come up with some harebrained schemes as well, so it should be pretty cool. Cheers.